Alright, welcome back to Power Play Garage. I'm back on 1984 F250 pickup truck. Yep, F means Ford, by the way, I think, I hope. But anyhow, doing a little, I don't know, caution things. These socks that go on where the spark plugs are on the wires, because it seems like the aftermarket headers that are on here that I didn't put on there, actually where the wire comes down in, it's a little too close. It might end up melting, shorting out. I'm a big fan of these things, and I put them on wherever I possibly can as far as when it comes to an engine. I got them on the 57 Chevy. I put them on the 33 5-window coupe. And now I'm putting them on this 1984 Ford F250. Along with that, it came as a kit. You get 8 of those socks, along with these brackets that actually keep the wires in a nice line. I like to keep things as neat and running as best that it can, you know, regardless of how the wires might cross. So these help do that. So I already done the right side, which would be passenger, and right now I'm fixing to finish up the left side, driver's side, and then I'm going to move on to the tail part of the transmission, which where I'll have to remove the driveshaft, and I can take care of either end simultaneously, basically. So I just wanted to start the video off showing something simple. They are simple, and actually you can find them on Amazon. They're not expensive. They're fairly reasonable. But if you went to like an Advance or an AutoZone, which you can find them there, whew, boy, oh boy, what you'll pay for one. I think for one, you can buy 2 sets, I think, of these, complete sets. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was crazy when I saw them in there. I even told the manager in Advance, matter of fact, that I go, do you know how much these things are on Amazon? I said, you can actually go buy them and sell them in your store and make a good profit off them. But hey, I'm not Advance, and I sure as heck ain't Amazon. So I just thought I'd share that information with them. So let me get to doing this and get these socks on there. And once that's done, I'll show you what they look like. So stand by. All right, I'm back. Now I'm about to show you what those things look like. Let me get you off the stand. Had to put a little light on the subject so you'd be able to see it. So you should be able to see the socks down here, hopefully, most of them. And they go right over the end of the wire that covers part of the spark plug. And then you have the nice, I believe they're aluminum anodized brackets that hold the wires in a nice form. And as you can see, the other side, same thing. I really do like those things. See, now you can see that side. Actually, you can really see the socks that cover the ends where the spark plugs go on, and nicely run. So for the most part, this now is nicely cleaned up. Even got the hinges mounted back onto the hood, so I don't need the wood there to hold it up anymore. Yep, I know we're going to be doing something about the air horns. Got to figure that out later on. So for now, I got to get underneath the truck, take the drive shaft off, and it's got the U-bolts on that end. I'm sure you can see it way down yonder. I will slide it out of there. I'll have a pan ready, and I have to change that seal there, that one up there, and that one on that end, and I have them all. So that's my next little venture. I'm going to do that right now, and as I go through it, I'll probably chime back in. So in the meantime, stand by. All right, I'm back. drive shaft is off. And I make some marks, and then I also check the backlash back and forth. And this way, when I go to put the yoke back on there, along with, where is it, the nut, and which is right here, I have marks on there so that I could get a great idea to how far tight it's got to be and how much backlash I'll have when I go back and forth with the yoke. See, this will go back there, and I'll be able to tell just how much this goes back and forth when I tighten it up, just in case. So, unfortunately, good old Vance gave me the wrong seal. I got the right ones coming. I called them. I finally was able to see the numbers that are partly worn. It's just, you know, the old, this is probably original seal in this truck. So over the period of time, those numbers get faded a little bit. So at the other end of this drive shaft, which is right there, let me get a little closer. And I have my pot ready to catch the trans oil. This one is actually also wrong, which not really surprised. I was able to locate the number. This one was a little difficult to read. Had to get a magnifying glass, clean the heck out of it, and I was able to get the numbers and call Advance, and they got this one in the store, so they're sending this one over to me. And the other one, the rear part, I'll have tomorrow morning sometime. But because they're on their way, I'm going to pop this one off, and hopefully I don't lose much in the meantime. And if I do, no big deal. I just will take that off, unbolt it, and fill it up. That's right. There's the drain plug, there's the fill plug, and I'll make sure she's the way it needs to be. But nevertheless, I figured I'd show that and give my experience. And then once that one's done, I know this one is right because they couldn't find the seal number for that. And I was able to come underneath here, clean it all really good, find a number, and I verified it once I got the seal. So that one is correct. So I will unbolt this and take this one down and change that one next. So that's the update. So as soon as I have what I need, I'll show you when it's done, or maybe the process, but nevertheless, stand by. All right, I'm back. And that's right, I'm dressed like it was winter. It is pretty cold. I think it was 41 degrees earlier. Maybe it went up a few degrees, I'm not sure. But for me, it's cold. And I come from the north, but many moons ago. So, as you could probably see, I got into the rear wheel cylinder because I'm waiting on the correct seal for the rear. Yeah, it's in there. The drive shaft is down. The yoke is out. Should be getting here shortly. In the meantime, I decided to take that big wheel off and venture into changing out the rear wheel cylinder. This is the brake cylinder. Yeah, this thing stopped working. And me personally, I try the best route to get that out without disassembling all this, because you got the emergency brake setup in this as well. And for me, drum brakes, I hate them. I worked on tractor trailers, and they are so much easier to change their rear drum brakes than any of these type. And though it might seem like it's not that bad, but it's really annoying. So I found the easiest way is unlatch the spring that goes from one side of the brake shoe to the other. And at that point, I've already loosened up the two back bolts and loosened up the brake line. And then once they were all loose, and then I ventured into basically moving this out of the way, which it's easy enough. Just take a pry bar and you can get behind it like that, and you can press it out of the way. And once you get the one side out, you could take the little, I don't know, fork-like looking push rod. I don't know the proper name for that piece in there. And then once you take that out, you can finish loosening up the bolts in the back, the brake line, and then this will actually slide out forward because this is flexible. You know, it's not that hard or rigid. It does have movability. So you can sneak it out this side to the front of the vehicle because of the emergency brake lever that comes back up and through here. This way it's the easiest way to get it out, and you can put the new one in there. And, you know, hook that all back up. You'll need a pair of needle nose so that you can grab a hold of that push rod pin, whatever that is, to maneuver it in there and then latch it in and then tap that back in. And then once you line up this side, because this side comes out far enough, you can slip that in there and then line it up and then tap that side back in. And then the only thing you'll really have to do is hook up the spring back to the brake shoe, and you're done. It's that much easier. You don't have to take all this apart. Too much time is wasted and ended up charging the client more money for nothing. You can just sneak that wheel cylinder out of there and get it back in there and call it a day. I also have to change the brake hose, which I have. There's the single hose back in there. I'll change that out next, and then I'll go to the front and change out those brake lines, the flex hoses, up until the rear seal comes so I can change that. And eventually I will drain the gear oil in the back. That pan is leaking in the back, so I have to take that off, clean it up, and basically most likely, I don't know if you can actually get gaskets for them. If not, I got a real good product. I've spoken of this before, and once again, not being sponsored. It's called The Right Stuff. You see it, 1 minute. Basically, it does its job. This is an expensive tube, actually. It really is. It's around $35, I believe, $35, $37. But to me, it's well worth it. It really is. This is what I like to use. And then the fact that it's got a lever, you push on it, and then it oozes out. That's really nice to use, and you can go pretty far with it. But it's well worth it. You know, just under 40 bucks. But like I said, not being sponsored would be nice because this stuff is a little pricey. But nevertheless, it's got to be done. I used it also when I'm putting the seals in. I used them on the transmission tail shaft. I used it on the front rear when I changed out that seal. So it's really good to have. Get yourself a tube of that stuff. In the meantime, I'm going to finish assembling this. Put the drum back on, do a little adjustment. There's a star type adjustment. It's there's a slot in the back of the brake pan here, the whole housing, the plate. You can get in there. There's a tool for that. You can use a screwdriver, and you can adjust it that way. It's got to have just a slight drag on there once you put the drum on, and then you're golden. So let me get that done so I can get it all back together. And until then, stand by. All right, I'm back. And actually, it's all back together. The brakes are adjusted. I just wanted to show a simple trick that I learned from an old timer, and especially when it came to tractor trailer tires. Use a shovel. Basically, a flat shovel would be considered, I guess, a sand shovel. And you could slide this thing around any way you want, and you know, just by doing this if you need to. And then once you get it close, you can maneuver it just by lifting up the shovel and find the holes, and then it's in. Just like that. And if you really need to hold it in position until you get a couple of lug nuts on, you can use your body. Start it. I like to put two on opposite sides, being this is an 8-lug wheel. And you can get two of them started. Kind of like this. What the heck? This one's giving me a bit of a challenge. You know what? Let me put it on a different one. There we go. And in this way, you can hold it up because, you know, they kind of need to be centered the way these lug nuts are for this kind of wheel. One thing I don't like to do, I don't like slamming the lug nuts into the wheel like that. See, now it's pretty much centered. I can remove the shovel, put it out of the way, and put the other lug nuts in. I don't need the little light on anymore. But in the meantime, the seal for the rear did come in. They just delivered it probably like maybe 5 minutes ago. So that's here, and I'm going to do that next. And with the drive shaft not attached, I can actually turn the wheel to my benefit. I can actually hear the brakes slightly touching the drum, even though I did check it before I put the tire on. This one's weird. Oh yeah, that one's missing a lug nut. That's why it's weird. There's something wrong with the stud. So we'll have to take care of that. That one's already done. Okay, now I'll do my cross pattern because I know it's nice in there. It's in there really nice, and then I could, you know, make sure it's tight enough. Just like that. And I'll go around it in a circle just to make sure I got them all. See that? That's all done. So now I'm going to address the seal, and I'll get back with you, so stand by. Okay, as I try to tune in here, parts today are just incredible. I don't mean that in a great way, I mean that in a sarcastic way. I'm changing the rear flex hose for the brake line that goes from the rear where it mounts, and then it flexes up to the frame where the steel line is. So the two steel lines, one for would be the right side and the other one for the left side. Now in the meantime, it's also area where the vent tube is for the rear itself. Now this is what it looks like, the attachment to attach the line to the tube on the axle. The one I took off, this part here is made out of brass and is a lot slimmer. And this is the correct one for it because it has everything required, the diameter for the hardware to go into it and be able to put the rubber hose on and let it vent, and then this to attach to the actual tube on the rear. Well, the interesting part is that this part here is too thick. So you might get one thread if you're lucky. I don't even think you'll get that to mount. Well, you can take it back and see if they can get you another one, which is going to be the same thing. And then you can go to a different part store and try to buy it there, and you're going to get the same thing. So you could do one or two ways of correcting the problem. The way I chose, because I have the equipment to do it, the machine, I will mill this area out right here so that this will be going where it needs to go and collect enough thread to mount and not distort at all where the two lines would come into play and meet. So that's what I'm going to do. But before I do that, I'm going to verify and make sure that both lines, the left side, which would be the driver's side, and the right side line, are the right correct diameter, because if you examine it, this part's correct, and the way it appears to be correct, but because the line themselves are, this one here is a little smaller than this side, but I'm going to verify that. But I find it really amazing that the stuff that you get today is just, it's pure junk in comparison to even 1984 where they used brass. Well, they ain't using brass because, you know, they'll lose more money. They won't make that, you know, that 50% margin of profit. So let me examine it and see what the deal is, and I'm going to go from there. So in the meantime, stand by. I'm back. Finally, got the right part for the brake line. The unfortunate part is that the front brake hoses have the same number because it's the same on both sides. The unfortunate part was that one came packaged incorrectly. So I took the old one with me to verify the next one that they give me would be correct. It took them a couple of days, actually 3 days, to get the right one in. It came in, and what didn't come in wrong the second time, it's just that because of the holiday, Christmas and everything, and New Year's, all that stuff, the right one came and I picked it up today. So I'm fixing to put it on, and this one could go in the trash and get that done and over with. I'm going to show y'all a little bit of a trick, maybe, if you didn't know it. And it's more of a sealant kind of trick. Has to do with the copper washers that I'm trying to get out of the bag here. Yeah, these little babies right here, you get 2 of them. And, you know, it's for either side of the block that the actual bolt goes through. And what I would suggest doing, and especially in this particular application, the Ford application, I'm going to show you when I can't show you because the old one is not off, but maybe I could show you through the actual piece itself. Well, the same ribbed-like section where the copper washer goes on, well, on the receiving side of the caliper, it's got a little bit of a recess in it. And for the thickness that these are, it seems like it's real touchy. So what I would suggest doing, I'm going to get a hammer and show you. You can use any hammer, but I would suggest using a brass hammer. Once you have the line hooked up, the bolt, the copper washers in the proper places, and you got it snugged up, take the brass hammer and give it a few smacks. And you'll see that you'll be able to tighten it even more. It will move. Not just like a smidgen, but it will move. And you might have to do it 2 or 3 times, because obviously you want to verify that there's no leak. And put some boots down here. We'll verify that. She had to take her tail to it once and her paw at the same time, and she got it hooked up. Yeah, there she is. She heard me talking. Yeah, where is she? There she is. Good old Puss in Boots. Yep, she's making her rounds. But in the event that you have a complication like that, get a brass hammer. And the reason why I'm saying a brass hammer is so you don't damage the top of the head of the bolt, basically. You don't want to mushroom out in case you hit it too hard or you hit it at an angle. That's why I'm suggesting a brass one. And this seems to have a comfortable amount of weight. So that's what I'm about to do right now. I am going to get the pan over here, the bucket plus the cardboard, and I am going to change out the line. Yep, right there. There it is. And this way, all new stuff. The brake pads look like they're like brand new. They don't even look like they were even used because the surface rust, the little surface rust that's on the rotors. There's I don't know. They might have been put on new before they left New York and never got to be driven. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change out this line right here, get it done and over with. And then once that's done, then I get to bleed the whole system. There's a couple of, actually 3 ways of doing it. One is you can have a helper and they can use the pedal, and you got to start at the furthest end away from the master cylinder. In this case, in most cases, if not all cases, you will find that the furthest, whether wheel cylinder or caliper, is on the rear right side, passenger rear. That's the furthest brake part away from the master cylinder. You start there, and then you go to the next one, which would be the driver's side, and then you come back up to the front on the passenger side, and then over to the left side over there and bleed it. That's one way of doing it. We have somebody in the cab, they're pumping the brake, holding it for you, you break the valve open, and poof, hopefully clean brake fluid comes out. If you don't want to do it that way, there's another system that's done with, actually there's 2 this type of style. There's I've noticed that there's a plate with air pressure that gets put on top of the reservoir of the master cylinder, and that applies pressure and air to that particular unit and will push the fluid to each valve that you decide to open up. The other one is done with an air. It creates a pull. You do it separately on each one. You want to keep the reservoir full, and for each one that you go and break loose while this is on there, it will pull the fluid out. And another way is you can take a container, whether a water bottle, something of size, put some brake fluid in there, and make sure that you take a hose, preferably a clear one, hook it up to the bleeder part, out and over and down into the brake fluid. It has to be in the container, submerged in the brake fluid. And this way, once you do one at a time, starting in the same pattern, you can have that hose in there hooked up, you loosen the line, and knowing that that line is loose, it's already now submerged in the brake fluid. When you go back up to the cab and you pump the pedal, it won't allow any air in there. It'll just basically pull the fluid up, if anything. But as you pump it in, you'll notice, if you video it, or if you have somebody watching, you'll see bubbles coming out. And once the bubbles stop coming out and nothing but clear fluid comes, you know that line has been bled. And then you move on to the next one and so forth. So those are the 4 ways of actually bleeding brakes that I know about. I think 4 is a lot. Puss in Boots will agree. She's working her way back over here now. I don't think she likes the idea of me petting her with these gloves on. Well, yep, here she comes. Right, Puss in Boots? Yep, here she is. Yep, you can catch her tail. Right, kitty? I know she ate, so she's been fed. Yep, she's going to go back over there. She can eat some more, I guess. But I can't get nothing done explaining all these details to you guys, so stand by. Okay, I'm about to show you what I just spoke of. The line is in. Ooh, finally we're getting some hydraulic fluid coming out of there. So what I'm going to do is get this where it belongs, hopefully, because we're losing a lot there. I'm going to put the pot there. Anyway, I'll mess with that in a moment. So I'm going to show you that the line is pretty snugged up. I don't want to make it feel like it's being stripped, but I got a lot of pressure on it. Okay, and it didn't move. Now I'm going to take the brass hammer. I'm going to switch hands. All right. That might have been enough and maybe not. Alright, here we go. See that? That moved that much more. Yep. So that's what I suggest. You don't have to, but it might prolong the agony of thinking that you got a leak. One more time. Yep, a little bit more. Alright, so that's the scoop on that, as you saw. So I'm going to get that line hooked up where it belongs, and I'll be right back. Okay, I figured I'd show you one of the 4 methods. And actually there's a 5th one. You can let gravity feed, basically gravity feed all the lines and so forth. You can do one at a time, where you can do the rear. I would suggest, if you're going to do gravity, do the rear first and then let the front after you tighten up on the back. But that's the bottle. There's a hole drilled in the cap. You got fluid in there, and actually the hose does go into the fluid. It attaches to the bleeder line, the actual fitting, and once that's attached, you loosen it and go inside the cab of the vehicle, and you carefully and slowly pump the brake. You do it 2 times, 3 times, but because I was putting new lines on and the brake fluid was feeding through it and it had constant flow until I tightened them up, I knew it wasn't going to take a lot. But that's how that's done. I got the light on the subject. There is the container. And like I did start from the furthest wheel. Rear right, rear left, front right, front left. So that is the story with all that. Now that that's all done, I'm going to make sure everything is all cleaned up as far as on the calipers and the rotors, so that this way I don't have to worry about any brake fluid being on any of that stuff. And I believe for this video it's going to end on this 1984 Ford F250 4-wheel drive truck. So once I put the tires on, I'll be able to take the jack and everything off there, and that will definitely take care of the brake lines that he wanted changed, the wheel cylinder that he wanted changed and needed to be changed regardless, and that just takes care of the brake system. And I will fill the reservoir up, make sure that's where it belongs, and then the next proceedings, I know we have to do the exhaust. I will check the gear oils. They were super clean, so there's no really need to change that. I don't want to waste the time or waste his money, because when I was changing out the seal, nothing but clean, I mean like brand new clean gear oil coming out of it. I will check the levels. I will make sure everything is nice and snug and tight and move forward from there. Next, I know I got to see if I can get an antenna. The top's got to be painted. The roof has to be painted. I have to do the exhaust to a point. The whole thing doesn't have to be changed. We just want to put bigger at the opposite end, say from the muffler's back, because the little things that he has back there, and I'll show you that in the next video. But that's going to definitely end this video here at Power Play Garage. Do appreciate people watching. If you want to make a comment, it'd be awesome. Subscribe if you haven't already. I think I'm up to 203 subscribers. Yay! After 13 or 14 months. It is what it is. I'm all right with that. Eventually it'll get up to the marks where it needs to be, and maybe that one video will strike a lot of people and they'll subscribe. You know, be those followers that'll like watching what I can actually show them, from repairs, full renovations that I've showed you, or renovations, I should say restorations, and anything else in between there. So in the meantime, try to get something done. Thanks for watching again.